But as a result, it learned to accept itself as a nail door, and that it is not, defined by its impassibility.
Press A to play.
Yeah, see, like that's exactly what I would say is like my, I guess, meaning, right? That version of Cowboy Bebop was a reinterpretation of the story, made for the medium in which it was told. It is a different version of Cowboy Bebop. The original is still out there, and you can definitely go watch it. This version also works. Part of the reason that it works, at least in my opinion, is that it was allowed to make the changes that it needed to make to be the version that it is, And I think all stories have to be allowed to do that. The Wheel of Time has to be allowed to do that. Lord of the Rings has to be allowed to do that. Any story that you want to survive in the long term must be allowed to do that, or its longevity is over. It's already a dead story. This is why myths and legends survived for so long. They were allowed to iterate. So must our modern stories.
Yeah, but they just had to make sure that the elements worked.
That's just good storytelling.
Like a retelling for the sake of retelling, and I have this good idea, let me shoehorn it in here somewhere. Like, no, I feel like independent of what that idea is, if somehow it doesn't fit, like, it's just not going to fit.
I mean, that's
And
fair,
so,
but...
yeah, I don't know what they're doing with the Rings of Power. Like, I haven't really been following, but I kind of feel like it's such a big story to tell, where there actually has to be a ton of thought behind... Oh, yeah, I think it... Actually, do you want me to tell you what I think the puzzles are, or do you care?
I don't... Oh, there it is, yeah. I was going to say you can, but I think I found it. Right? Just got to freeze that thing?
I think you got to let it roll down part of the way so the thing that you want to hit is exposed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, maybe I shouldn't tell you. I really thought the puzzles in this game were very good. Clever as shit, right? I really have to say that the puzzle element of actually these games in general, like I remember it's been a long time since I played God of War 3, but God of War 2 also had a bunch of really, really interesting ones.
Yeah, I think they dungeon design is a whole element of game design that you need to be good at in and of itself.
Yeah, because like you want it to be hard without feeling like you're being a jerk, you know?
Yeah,
like just
hard, but not because of delays. Right, there's a difference between like that's fake hard. Like giving an opponent more health is fake hard. Actually creating an interesting system that's difficult to navigate is real hard. Have we established we're bad guys yet? By the way, we're bad guys. We also eat puppies.
I've painted my head red. Surely you know that I am bad. So, what's the deal with that dude? Does he also have a head tattoo, or he's
right?
just one man, they say?
Is it a tattoo or paint? Yeah, I love that they just watch these things happen and they just keep fighting.
Yeah.
These guys have no sense of self-preservation. This is one of the things they teach you not to do in D&D. They're like, remember, your characters have a sense of self-preservation. If, let's say, 10 people have died, perhaps the 11th goblin realizes it's a bad idea to stand in front of the barbarian.
Yes. The story has to be good. That's gotta make sense. I just wish in general, like, we would take a moment, not us, but like these production companies that are cranking these things out would take a moment to appreciate like what makes a story, you know? The second I feel like I'm just being strung along to get to the next season, I instantaneously lose interest and I stop watching. I don't give a shit how interesting a premise it was. Like, I think it was Westworld.
Mm-hmm.
I thought lots of room to explore, lots of very interesting themes or whatever, but somehow, I can't remember what moment it was. Maybe it was even really like right at the end of the first season. But the second I got the vibe, like, oh, you're just stringing me onto another season, aren't you? The second I get that vibe,
Yep.
I'm like, fine, then no, I'm not watching it. Screw you. I have a life. This is just irritating to me.
It's like, I don't mind that as much, as long as the story is really good. And that's my problem, is that, like, executives don't know what makes a good story as well as really good writers do, and yet they meddle all the time. And this is when things go awry, right? You gotta let good writers do exactly what it is that they're good at and write a good story. Otherwise, the product you're trying to sell isn't good. And this is a problem because this is subjective, and as a result, it's not understood or accepted by the same companies that produce these things. But stories should be written by writers, and this is because writers are good at writing. It's what they do, literally. Just let them do what they do, you know?
I understand the challenge in that it does also have to make money, and obviously that means things and blah blah blah. But
Yeah, but it's like I would argue though that like at the end of the day, again, you're selling a product, right? And that product is the story that you're telling. So if your story sucks, I'm not going to care. And do you know who can make your story not suck? The person you explicitly pay to write stories that don't suck. That's the person who can make your story not suck.
you can't hit that dude with the axe.
Yeah, I know. I'm being silly because I'm
You gotta hit him with the
reflexively
unaxe.
recalling. I'm reflexively recalling the axe. Yeah, like you're just at the end of the day, like you have a guy for this,
Yeah.
and that guy is the guy you hired to write good story. That's the guy who writes well. So maybe let them write well, and just let them do that. Like don't force anything else. But this is the ethos that isn't present currently, and that I think really should be. I understand that like good story is an intangible, but again, like even from a marketing perspective, from an executive perspective, if the story sucks, it won't sell.
Yeah.
And the best bet you have of making a story that doesn't suck is the person you're paying to make it not suck. So just let them do what they do.
And even then, it's a bet, huh?
Yeah, of course, but it will always be.
Yeah.
And at least then, like, still, you have people here. It's not the first thing in business that's intangible. People like to talk like it is, but it's not. There are many things in business that are intangible, and yet we accept that if somebody's good at it, they're good at it. Right? And it should be the same way with writing. I think the problem is that writing is an art and it's not as respected. But at the end of the day, the same way we accept that project management is a little more art than it is science, the same way we accept that management is a little more art than it is science. HR is a little more art than it is science. Marketing sometimes, despite how scientific marketing, is touted to be, at the end of the day, coming up with marketing ideas, ploys, and schemes, knowing what it is to research is an intangible. Yet we accept that a marketer can be good at this. So we accept that there are intangible things that a person can be good at. We should also accept that this applies to art. Some people have more skills in that department than others. Use their track record if you really want some degree of surety.
And stop butchering properties to make money, Jesus.
Right.
Like, if
'Cause
you
it's
don't
not gonna
have
work. It's
a
only
good
gonna make people
version of
hate
the
it.
story,
Yeah.
don't tell the story, please. Like, I'm sure there were lots of people jumping on the property, for example, Lord of the Rings, like, if you have a chance, why would you not take it?
Right.
But if I'm not convinced that it's going to be a good telling of the story, I don't care what other elements are involved. I'm simply not going to watch it,
Yeah, understood.
At the moment, I don't know. Maybe I need to wait until it's properly out and to see what the reviews are.
I would
but
not
so far-
prejudge it. Yeah, I would not prejudge it. I would actually see it. But at the end of the day, yeah, like you also have to remember that you're gonna see a lot of biased hate when it first comes out. And at the end of the day, in my opinion, the only real way to analyze something like that is to try to come at it from an unbiased perspective and let it be its own iteration of the story. And I'm not saying that means it's not going to suck. It is entirely possible that it still sucks. But at the very least, I will not be one of the people going, but Gimli's beard was a different shade of brown in the books, and therefore this sucks.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah. Let's see.
Let it be its own version. Let it be its own version.
I mean, I actually did think The Hobbit was all right.
I thought The Hobbit wasn't bad for what it was. There are certain things that annoyed me, but that's just because, like, narrative. Like, I don't like that they use the Ringwraith song for when Thorin fought an orc. Like, guys, this is the Ringwraith theme. Why this does not belong here. This very simply does not narratively belong here.
Okay.
But that wasn't a criticism of Lord of the Rings. That's just a criticism of their editing. I just hated that song was used in that moment.
Broccoli Cabbage Patch was great in it, though.
It's true.
Yeah.
He was a very good voice for the dragon, I think. There's really no one quite like a Bandersnatch for doing these things correctly. Like, he's just got a great voice for it.
He's got the best name in history, by the way.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Blender Day Cucumber Sandwich is the greatest name in history.
Yeah. I actually I think I was one of the few people that liked that they tried to bring in like bits and pieces that were not in the Hobbit
So-
story to round it out.
I also really liked that though, right? But
Yeah.
that's the thing. Like, if you're a purist, then you wanted the original Hobbit. But let's think about this for a second. What was the original Hobbit? Would you really want to see that on screen? Probably not.
It was a children's story for sure.
Exactly, right? I think what they did with it was literally the best thing they could have done with what they were given, right? And this is my problem with the criticism that it's not just like this other version of the story. Yeah, of course it's not. You think of this story like it's sacred at this point, but you know what? It was pop culture when it was written. That's what this is. It's all pop culture. You gotta let it evolve. If you want the story to survive, it's gotta evolve.
Yeah. Well, I think they were careful to. If I'm right about this, like I think they were careful to draw things. I think it was from the Silmarillion, and to make sure that the things that they were drawing made sense and blah blah blah. You know. So I appreciated that they put a bit of thought into that. Like I get that in some sense it does feel a bit shoehorned in. Like there's this whole other thing that's going on that's. I mean, it's not quite relevant to The Hobbit, you know. It's super relevant to other stuff, but like you have this other sort of central narrative and like.
There's a B plot.
Yeah, and you made Legolas a bit of a jerk when he seemed so chill in the first one, in the first handful of times you see him. So you're kind of like, when did he become so douchey all of a sudden, you know?
Yeah, inconsistent characterization is definitely a problem. But this is the kind of issue that like a longer show has the opportunity to fix, in my opinion. But this is why like I judge shows more poorly for what I see as bad narrative than I do for changing stuff, right? Legolas had an inconsistent characterization. The B plot wasn't properly woven in. I don't like that they used the Ringwraith theme. Certain parts felt a little slow, right? But these are obviously not criticisms that make me dislike the entire project, but they are criticisms of that iteration of the story, not ways that it differs from The Hobbit. In the same way that like the Wheel of Time version that I saw, for instance, I kind of liked it. I thought it was pretty good. I don't like that they retained the way that magic works in the way that they did. I thought that was a bit strange or silly. I don't like that they retained certain elements from the book where they made three particular characters the only people who could possibly be the person that they're looking for, when all five really could have been candidates and it would have been a more interesting story. But like these are complaints I have about the story now that it is a show, and not so much complaints that I have regarding how it differs from the book. In fact, I wish it differed a little more in some areas. But it's like at the same time, while they made some changes, they made changes that allowed them to bring the Wheel of Time to the big screen in a really interesting way, right? Like this, you realize the Wheel of Time done correctly could be the next Lord of the Rings, but it's got to be done correctly.
Yeah, I think part of the issue is that this expectation that it will be the next anything, you know.
True.
It's like me telling you, you got to check out this new movie. It's the next Matrix. Okay, but then why don't I just watch the Matrix, gangsta? Like, you know, like the next, you know what I mean? Or like the next Ghost in the Shell. Like, but I have a Ghost in the Shell.
It's Ghost
like,
in the Shell.
I could just go watch that. I don't want to be watching a thing and being like, wow, this is just like Lord of the Rings, you know, because then I might say to myself, well, then why don't I just watch the Lord of the Rings again, you know?
Fair. I mean,
so
I guess
this is why, like, out of all the superhero stuff, I kind of sort of appreciated the boys a little bit, because they tried to go into like a darker vibe about the whole thing.
True.
But then at a certain point, I was like, oh, you're stringing me on to next season. And then I stopped watching.
All shows do that, unfortunately. It's how they get renewed.
But sometimes it doesn't feel so much like that. I really wish I could articulate why, you know? Because I remember thinking Invincible was great.
Invincible was phenomenal.
And I mean...
You know why? I think I can articulate it. Rather, I can articulate my version of that feeling, which is that when... the hook for next season isn't woven into the current season. You kind of just suddenly finish the current season and then sloppily enter the hook for the next one. And then it feels like it comes out of nowhere as opposed to being a natural extension of the story you're already watching.
But it still feels like it fits.
Like for me, like fair enough. For me, if the next version feels like it fits, then I'm just happy to keep going as long as they actually give the show proper care.
Yeah. And I think I might as well. I guess... maybe what it is I felt like they properly closed the chapter. sort of thing, you know?
Hmm.
Like, somehow that segment of the story did feel somewhat complete.
Yeah, the arc. They closed the arc properly.
And it looked like they had they had thought it through. You know what I mean? They had thought about it and they were like, you know, this is the way to sort of wrap up this section and open up the next one. Like it happens, you know, at this point in the series of stories that we're going to tell, and then, you know, it breathes for a little bit more, and then we kind of get this wrap up over here, and you know that there's something else coming, but it still feels like something is complete, you know, and that it was thought through.
Yeah, so like I understand what you mean, and I feel like that's just good storytelling. Literally, there's no other way to put that. It's just whether or not your storytelling is good and capable of doing that. And largely, in my opinion, that comes down to how well you manage your act structure and how well you weave the next act into the current one so that it feels like a natural extension as opposed to it's coming out of nowhere and keeps people actually interested and fascinated. And my favorite way of doing that is the Harmon circles, where Dan Harmon basically defined a way to write for television that was really popular, and it's like just vague enough that you can apply it to just about anything, but it's also like, you know, he's also right that it is the way that I guess this kind of writing works best.
Does it involve doors made of nails?
It does not, in fact, involve doors made of nails. Unfortunately, the Harmon nail door is not
It's not a thing?
not been invented just yet. I'll have to
The Harmon nail door?
I'll have to tweet at Dan Harmon and see if he'll do it.
Oh yeah, I think it's a good idea because, you know, apparently they're so common. Like,
Yeah, of course. I mean, we need to address the real issues in the next Lord of the Rings, like nail doors.
yeah.
Uh,
Oh, sorry, carry on. So like,
yeah, I was gonna say that like basically the Harmon circle is all about defining like what it means to basically advance a character and advance a character's development in a meaningful way. And he wrote this like easy to understand methodology for it that works extremely well and has worked extremely well for him and all of his television endeavors. And basically, if you're really good at it, one of the things you can do is in effect merge circles within circles. So you have like the end of one circle and the evolution of this character happening right as the next circle and the next evolution of this character begins.
does the next circle involve a nail ceiling?
Sometimes it does. You know, sometimes that's the evolution. You know, you go from nail door to nail ceiling.
Uh-huh.
Right. So if we look at this in a Harmon circle way, we would say that Kratos originally had trouble dealing with nailed doors. However, having dealt with adequate number of nailed doors, he figured out how to deal with nailed doors, and as a result, advanced as a character because now he knows how to deal with nailed doors. He found himself in the uncommon, for him, situation of nailed door, and then learned how to deal with nailed door, and as a result, has now adapted and become nailed door master.
But how do you know that it's his development and not the development of the nails?
But you don't. The nail door could also be having its own development at the same time.
Oh snap! Like a circle within a circle, man.
Exactly, and this is where the Harmon circles really come in, right? If you do it correctly, you should be in a situation where, in effect, one character's like big defining moment where they learn how to deal with something or like, you know, get to the next stage of their evolution is actually like another character's darkest hour or the start of another character's call to adventure, right? And this can be literally the exact same event and just have a different context for the characters in question. This then makes the story flow very, very smoothly.
So the darkest hour of the nail door
was when Kratos learned how to surpass it. But as a result, it learned to accept itself as a nail door and that it is not, you know, defined by its impassibility. You know, at the same time, Kratos got to find out how to deal with nail doors at the cost of temporarily losing his axe, which made him a more interesting character for it. You know, Kratos has learned he doesn't need axe to Kratos. He can Kratos even without the axe. As a result, he is now stronger even with the axe. While Naildor has learned that while axe can beat Naildor, perhaps Naildor is still Naildor even if it is open. Maybe it is not such a bad thing being ajar.
The real nail door is the
Friends we made along the way. Exactly.
I think you have upgrades or something. Like if you want.
Fair enough. I'll check the menu. I've totally been paying attention and thus very clearly know exactly what it is I'm doing.
Oh yeah, clearly. You know, all of the game elements
Yes.
are under your belt. You have mastered.
Mastered is a good word, yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Appropriate
Uh-huh.
phrasing.
Uh-huh. But yeah, like, basically if you do it right, it should all weave together. And if it doesn't weave together, then you've done something wrong.
See a lot of series that do things wrong then.
Yeah, this is very true.
Or maybe I'm just a tough customer because I feel like
I mean, but I would argue that this is normal, right? Exceptional series would not be exceptionally good if every series was that good.
yeah, and I really don't want to watch it if it's not exceptional.
Right. Every series, you know, has its own story. You know, everybody's got to have a first series. Everybody's got to have a series that doesn't necessarily appeal to you. You know, like it's just there's a lot of series out there, and like of course you're not going to think all of them are great. Some people really like exactly the kind of series that I hate. You know, that's okay. But I will never love them. I will never love a cheesy series that doesn't have a real story. I just won't.
It's okay. Those people are wrong.
Like, I understand it's good for your anxiety. That's great. Proud of you, bud. But, like, I can't waste my time on a series that says nothing in the end. I would rather be doing something else with it. Like, playing God of War and ignoring Atreus. I think ignoring Atreus can be really a full-time hobby for me if I try hard enough.
Yeah. You definitely get that impression that was his father's full-time hobby at some point in the past.
Indeed, yeah. I think wishing Atreus didn't exist was definitely one of Kratos' major hobbies for a little while there. Did that do anything? Wait. Oh yeah, I have to line them up. Okay, yeah, I got it.
I read those ancient Norse symbols.
Oh, did I not line up the center well enough?
See, just really good puzzles. I mean, this one was more on the simple side, but
Yeah.
I don't know, something about them.
Does it feel like, oh, is it the other way? Or did I have it right the first time? Which way do these runes go?
Yeah, draw the axe now.
Yeah, like they just are satisfying to solve, and that's what a
It
puzzle
says
should
kicks cixerop.
be. Cixerop. Oh
Yeah.
no, Atreus. Cixerop. Go.
Cixerop?
Do you not know how to Cixerop?
There's a square.
Yeah. It's a good thing I just thought of that.
Again, it is, if you were paying attention, like, is kind of interesting to see that their relationship does develop.
Fair enough.
And you see it in subtle ways, which were surprisingly thoughtful, I think.
Fair enough.
Considering the character that Kratos is, you know?
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, I just feel bad for Atreus most of the
Oh
time.
my
to be
God,
honest,
yeah.
But... Come here, boy. God damn it, boy. You damn it, Dad?
Yuck, yuck.
I have a name. And it's boy. Your mom picked your name. I don't like it.
It's important for a warrior. Oh, it's the refrigerator dude again.
I was gonna name you Reese, but your mom was like, one syllable Greek god names, that's stupid.
Atreus. This one has a name.
I wanted to name you Atreyu because I really like the Neverending Story, but your mom, she was like, no, he's gotta be Greeker sounding.
Atreus. Was that ever actually like a written story, or was it just a movie?
I think it was just a movie. Unless I'm wrong. I don't think it was a written story. I'm just gonna gonna weenie this one. Oh, what? You jerk.
It's got some ads.
Eat it.
This one has Hadoukens.
It does. It's really annoying.
You're on fire.
I am on fire. Rolling doesn't help.
Stop, drop, and roll.
Kratos occasionally stops, drops, and rolls, but really he's just too badass to be hurt by fire.
That is exceptionally badass.
Yeah, he's like the old school stories. Like I recently read a summary of Beowulf, and someone pointed out that in the story of Beowulf, he is at one point simply too badass to be taken down by a dragon biting him in the neck.
Really?
Yep. They're just like, yeah, you know, a dragon bit him in the neck, but like it's no big deal or whatever. Also, like the poison kind of is, because it's like especially poisonous, but like it's no big deal that like the dragon bit him though. Like that part is fine. Also, like while we're at it, he can hold his breath for like 20 minutes. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, that's like totally real, you know?
Right? Yeah. He's so badass. He simply doesn't drown. The water just respects him too much.
He's like Chuck Norris.
You know.
He doesn't do push-ups. He pushes the ground down.
Exactly. This is how old heroes were. You know.
He doesn't get wet. The water gets Chuck.
Exactly. The water gets bayowed.
Come on, refrigerator dude. You can just make him follow you around the thing.
Yep. Just kiting him around, throwing the axe at him.
At his knees. He's gonna get so irritated at some point. You've hit him in the
You'd
knee
think
like
so, right?
15 times.
Like I said, that one guy with the arrow, total wuss.
It's like, I've taken 15 axes to the knee.
Head and groin. Knee, head, and groin.
And these punks, they're totally like, yeah, homie's fighting a massive demon holding a refrigerator, but we're gonna take him on too.
Yep. Ads are always really clever like that, aren't they? That's video game logic for you.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody has a sense of preservation.
None.
Ads have no problem attacking you even though they know they're gonna die.
Your axe to the knee strategy, totes working. BT dubs.
Yep.
Brenna Dowdy is having a bad day. The refrigerator is like totally on fire now.
Yep. At some point he got mad and made an on fire refrigerator, but he missed it. That doesn't matter.
Oh, homie's
You're
about
gonna
to have a bad day. Oh.
Oof.
Oof.
Yeah, you thought the axe was no big deal. Well, how about a fridge?
On the head.
Head fridge.
And on that
Disintegrating head
note,
fridge. Yeah, on that note.
I think it's time o'clock.
It's time o'clock.
It's time o'clock.
Oh my god, is it half past the freckle?
It's half past a freckle.
Alrighty, fair enough.
Alrighty.
Well, that was fun. Do I save this?
We God of Ward.
We ward all of the god.
All of it.
I can totally enchantment.
Just godding the war.
Godding like all of the war though.
Absolutely.